beautiful.
Thank
I'm
you.
here with Rex Richardson, who's of course a VCU faculty member and world-known trumpet virtuoso. And we're here to talk a little bit about our upcoming Pops concert, which very excited about. What was that you were just playing, Rex?
That was the opening phrase of Lush Life by Billy Strayhorn, which actually happens to be probably my favorite tune. Really love that song, so I'm really happy we'll be able to perform it on this concert.
Yeah, and on this concert we'll also be doing music, of course, Billy Strayhorn, absolutely connected to Duke Ellington for their entire working career, so we're going to do some other Ellington stuff as well.
Yes, indeed. We're going to do some of the music that was from Ellington's beginnings, Cotton Club Stomp, East St. Louis Toodaloo. Also probably a rendition of Caravan, which of course was not composed by Duke Ellington, but was made famous by his band. And so a lot of the familiar repertoire that Duke made famous.
You know, we're also playing, and I'm really excited about this because it's going to certainly be a Richmond premiere, probably a Virginia premiere too, I'm guessing, of Jim Stevenson's Rex Trumpet Concerto, which he wrote for you personally.
Yes, yes, it's really a remarkable work. I love playing it, and we've been fortunate to perform it in maybe a dozen countries around the world since 2010. It was premiered in Australia, actually. And Jim and I have known each other for a long time, really since we were in high school. And he was a fantastic trumpet player at the time, and he turned out to have a great talent for writing and became busier and busier as a composer. As he did so, he started to wind down his activities as a trumpet player. He became a full-time composer. Back in 2010, I was really lucky to have an opportunity to present this concerto, and the rest of it is history. It's really a remarkable work. He's very interested in blending genres, so there are lots of jazz elements, improvised cadenzas, and even a jazz piccolo trumpet solo in the third movement. And it's really quite popular with audiences. I think our Richmond audience will really enjoy this piece.
I think it's going to be a big hit. You mentioned piccolo trumpet, and he also calls for you to play flugelhorn.
That's true.
Yeah, so you've got 3 different horns all in the space of this single concerto.
That's true.
Is that a challenge?
It is. I think one thing that Jim knows about me is that when I'm playing a jazz set, that's actually my typical lineup of horns, which is not all that typical of most jazz trumpet players. The piccolo trumpet in particular is somewhat unusual, but because I came up as a classical player primarily and always loved playing piccolo trumpet, a long while ago I decided, well, why not play jazz piccolo trumpet too? And so typically I'll have the B-flat trumpet, which is your good old standard instrument we all start on when we're 10, 11 years old, and then the flugelhorn and the piccolo trumpets as a set of 3 different colors I can use when playing jazz tunes. So Jim decided to write for that combination of instruments.
Would you mind showing us a little bit from the concerto?
Sure. I can start off with this opening gesture. So that's the opening lick, and a lot of the thematic material ends up being derived from the notes of that opening gesture. And Jim throws a bunch of crazy things in this piece, like multiphonics, for example, which is where I can effectively hum into the instrument, try to get more tones out at the same time. If I do it properly, then I can get a chord.
Wow, so you become an entire chord all on your own.
Yeah, you kind of change the trumpet into a chordal instrument.
Yeah, that's interesting. People don't think of it that way.
Right, it's an unusual technique that's done more frequently with trombone and tuba with lower brass, but it is certainly possible on the trumpet. And Jim also calls upon me to use circular breathing. So there's a passage in particular in the cadenza where I end up kind of going for a long while. So you could, in theory, just continue indefinitely playing a passage because you can continue to breathe.
How long did it take you to learn how to circular breathe?
Well, it's a funny story there because I was told I should try to learn to do this with water and a straw. Not recommended, I would say. I almost drowned right at the kitchen table. I found this was a little bit treacherous, so I found rather just doing it straight on the instrument and spending, geez, I probably spent about 2 weeks when I was about 18 years old obsessing with this highly unnecessary skill until I was able to make it work. And after that, it, just like anything else, it starts to become easier and more natural, and you can use it in more and more settings.
Let's hear a little bit of the concerto with full symphony orchestra. So did you start when you were 10 or 11? How did you get started playing the trumpet?
I did start when I was 10. I think I was 10. Maybe I was 11. But it was around that age group for sure. I was actually an asthmatic child, and the doctor told my folks that I should play a wind instrument. And I'd always been interested in music since I was very small. But my best buddy at the time played the trumpet, so I decided to try trumpet. It was nothing more than that, really.
Wow.
And a few years later, something clicked, and I really decided I wanted to try to pursue it full on.
So after all those years of practice and training, now you have a career that takes you all over the world. And I think you said about half the year you spend on the road?
Yeah, it's probably about somewhere between 5 to 6 months a year that I'm traveling. And it gets crazy, but it's, you know, most of it, of course, is a lot of fun. And I find, as a matter of fact, later today I'm flying to Brazil.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a little bit crazy. So before our concert, I'll be doing this festival in Brasilia for just over a week. Then I have to go to Los Angeles to perform at a Yamaha event at the NAMM show. And then I will be back here, and then we have our concerts a couple weeks after that. So yeah, it's a little crazy, but I feel very lucky to be able to see the world and play music. It's really, really quite a joy.
That's wonderful. Well, let's see, we're going to end the whole concert with a tribute to one of the other great jazz composers of all time, Louis Armstrong.
That's right. Yeah, Louis, who is still to this day, I think, considered the greatest trumpet player in jazz and perhaps even the greatest improviser. He was sort of the first great jazz soloist. And Jim Stevenson wrote a really beautiful tribute to Louis Armstrong, and it's got a number of the tunes that he made famous in it, and it's just a blast to play.
This show is Rex Richardson and friends, so you've actually invited some guys to play with you on a combo that's in front of the orchestra. Tell us a little bit about some of your friends.
Yeah, well, from right here in town, we've got Russell Wilson and Pete Spaar, who are both members of the Richmond Symphony, of course. They are not only extremely fine classical musicians, but fantastic jazz players. And Pete is one of my favorite jazz bassists. I mean, he's really remarkable. And Russell is an incredibly talented musician, as we know, and does all kinds of great jazz playing all over the place. And we're bringing in as guests two gentlemen who have very strong Central Virginia connections. Steve Wilson, who is one of the leading saxophonists in jazz. I mean, he's just the consummate jazz artist, composer, and wonderful person as well. And I've had the opportunity to record with him and to do a number of projects. And then Nate Smith, who's a young drummer who's also originally from the area and has made a huge name for himself internationally as touring with a lot of the greatest names in jazz. So we're extremely lucky to have these two jazz luminaries coming to play this concert with us. It's
going to be very exciting. I'm thrilled to work with all of them, and as well as being able to feature you and work with you up front instead of in the back of the orchestra as usually usually work together.
Definitely, this is a thrill.
Well, maybe to play us out, you could give us a little taste from the Louis Armstrong.
Sure,
melody.
Absolutely.